Hello everyone. This is the third video in the series, How to Buy Your First Accordion. If you haven't watched the previous two videos, I'm leaving a link to the playlist in the description. This is Josh from Breezy Bellows. In the previous video, we looked at how you can choose an accordion size based on the length of the keyboard. In this video, we are going to look at something very interesting and very unique to the accordion: the register switches, the reed blocks, and tuning. The reason that I say that this is something that is very unique to the accordion is because the accordion has a wide variety of sounds that it can produce from a single instrument, and all of that is completely acoustic. And before you buy your first accordion, it is very crucial to understand the different options you have and pick the right accordion so that you have the sounds that you like. And as an introduction, I'd like to demonstrate the different types of sounds that can come out of a single accordion. And I'm going to play the exact same tunes in the exact same octaves in the keyboard, and I'm going to use different register switches, which lets me select the various options I have for the acoustic sounds that I have in this instrument. So I'm going to start with bassoon with a single reed. So you could see that I was just playing the same notes on the keyboard, and when I selected these different switches, I was able to get very different sounds. This is comparable to like some sound that you'll get out of a guitar amp, or like the different sound settings that you might have on a digital keyboard. But what makes the accordion unique is that all of this is acoustic, and there's no digital processing that is involved in producing all of these sounds. When you buy your accordion, you can make specific choices so that you get the sounds that you like out of your instrument. In order to understand how the accordion produces all these different sounds, we need to take a closer look at how the accordion produces a sound. This is a reed block. This is what we have inside of an accordion that produces the sound when we play a key and squeeze. So the reed block is just a block of wood with holes on the bottom and reeds that are on both sides of the reed block. So when I actually blow into the reed block to simulate the air that is being squeezed in and out of the reed block through the bellows, it'll produce a sound. There's a dedicated reed for each note that you play on the keyboard. Let's take a closer look. So these are the holes, and this is a reed, and this is another reed, another reed, another reed, and we have more on the other side. And these are the valves that are used to block and open the flow of air based on the direction that the bellows are moving. We have a dedicated reed for each key on the keyboard. But how does that produce more than one type of sound when I press those register switches on the keyboard side? The accordion has several reed blocks. Some accordions have 2 reed blocks, some have 3, some have 4, and there are some accordions that even have like 5 reed blocks. What that means is that we have more than one option to select which reed we actually want the sound to come from. So we have different types of reed blocks, and that gives us the options. Let's take this accordion for example. This has 3 reed blocks on the treble side. So we have 3 different blocks of reeds that we can choose from for each key. So these register switches let us switch between reed blocks. So what they do is to actually turn each reed block on and off. And if you look at this one up close, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 switches. Does that mean that we have 5 reed blocks here? Not necessarily. So the 3 reed blocks give us 3 options to produce 3 different sounds. But those are not the only sounds that you could make. You could also have combinations of reed blocks. Let's take a closer look at the register switches here. So you could see that each switch actually has a label, and each of these labels have 2 lines in them and a few dots. So what do we make of these labels? So the number of dots corresponding to each switch tells you how many reed blocks are activated, and the position of the dots actually tell you which reed blocks are activated. With the 2 lines, we have 3 positions in which these dots can go: below the 2 lines, between the 2 lines, or above the 2 lines. When we have a dot below the 2 lines, it means that we have a low register that has been selected. And this one has a single dot between the 2 lines. That means that we have the middle register selected. And this one actually has 2 dots between the 2 lines. That means that we have 2 middle registers selected. And this is the master setting that actually has 1 low and 2 middles, which is all of the 3 reed blocks that are available in this accordion selected. So we call the switch that turns on all of the reed blocks as the master switch. Let's first listen to the sounds of the individual reed blocks. So I'm selecting the first one, that is the low reed block only. Now if I play the middle reed block only, that's gonna sound like this. So that's exactly 1 octave higher than the previous one. And if I select the low and middle together with 2 reed blocks on, it's gonna sound like this. This is exactly the same as just picking my bassoon and playing octaves. But it just lets you play octaves by just playing 1 key at a time. And now you might be wondering why we had a register switch with 2 middle reed blocks in there. So this is what we call as intentional detuning in an accordion. So when you have 2 notes that are out of tune with each other, that creates a beat because the wavelengths are not exactly matching, and the duration of the beat depends on how much they are out of tune with each other. This is what we call as the wet sound in an accordion. This is not an octave effect or a chorus effect. This is a more thicker, wetter sound that you get out of an accordion when you pick this register with 2 middle reeds turned on. Let's see how this sounds like. And if if you listen closely, you could actually hear the beat. And this is where you get different options. You could either get a wet tuned accordion or a drier tuned accordion. A drier tuned accordion is something that has the two middle blocks that are out of tune by a small interval. The wet tuned accordion is one that has two middle blocks that are detuned by a larger interval, and you'll be able to hear the ring much more distinctly. The other accordion that we just saw had 3 reed blocks in it: low, middle, and middle. So this is a 4 reed accordion that has 1 low and 3 middles. This is the most important decision that you'd have to take about the tuning of your accordion. How many reed blocks are you going to get, and what type of blocks are you going to get in your 3 reed or 4 reed accordion? Or if you want a lighter accordion, you might go for a 2 reed accordion, and that would give you limited options. This one has 1 low reed block and 3 middle reed blocks. Accordions with this configuration are typically called a musette tuned accordion. A musette tuned accordion has 3 middle blocks, in which one of the middle blocks is tuned exactly 1 octave above the low block. So this is the low block, and this is the middle block that is tuned exactly 1 octave above the low block. And we have 2 more middle blocks, one of which is tuned a little bit lower than the first middle block, and the other one is tuned a little bit higher than the first middle block. I'm going to play the in tune middle block with the one that is tuned a little bit lower than that. And now we have 2 middle blocks, each of which are a little bit lower and a little bit higher than the block that we just turned off. This one is going to have a wetter sound and a stronger ringing or beat compared to the previous one, because both these reeds are actually a little bit farther off from each other in tuning. Compare that to the one that we just listened before this. And the wetter sound is like this. You could refer to these blocks as M, M minus, and M plus. So what I played first was M and M minus together, and the one that I played second was M minus and M plus together. And we also have this other configuration, or the register switch, called as the full musette, which has all 3 of M minus, M, and M plus on at the same time. And that's going to sound like this. And some of the larger accordions have a palm switch called as a master switch. So this is one way to activate your master setting, which could also be activated from this switch. This is going to turn everything on. This is another 4 reed accordion that has a different tuning. This has 1 low block, 2 middle blocks, and 1 high block. And this is similar to the other smaller accordion that we had with the LMM configuration, but it also has a high reed block that plays 1 octave higher than the middle reed. This is the high, this is the middle, and this is the low. And this gives us different sets of combinations. Like you could have combinations like low and high together. Or you could have low, middle and high together. Or you could pick the master setting, which has all four, low, two middles and a high together. In the LMMH configuration, we still have two middle blocks that are out of tune with each other to create the beats, but these beats are not as strong as the ones that you find in the musette tuned accordion, which is of LMMM configuration. So this is how my two middle reeds sound together. Personally, I like this sound a little bit better than the wetter sounds, but it's just a personal preference. Whether you buy LMMM or LMMH is completely up to you and what your ear likes and what kind of music you actually play. If you're into a lot of Scottish tunes or Irish or French tunes in which you play a lot of waltzes, you would like the musette tuned accordion. For everything else, you like the classic tuned accordion, which is LMMH. You could call this classic tuned or dry tuned. The LMMM accordion could be called as a wet tuned or a musette tuned accordion. I feel that the LMMH accordion is a little bit more versatile and it produces more powerful sounds. I shouldn't say that it's more versatile, I should say that it produces more of the sounds that I like. And it is not able to produce the different types of wet sounds that a musette tuned accordion would produce. So if you are going for a 4-reed accordion, this is definitely a decision that you should make before you buy an accordion. If you are buying an accordion from online, it might be harder to get sound samples for it and for you to like try to test it out before you buy it. The way that you can actually find out whether an accordion that is being sold online is dry tuned or wet tuned is to actually look for the words LMMH or LMMM. Or some of the listings might mention dry tuned accordion versus wet tuned accordion. Or you could even look at the pictures of the register switches to see what kind of reed blocks are there. If you see 4 dots with 1 low and 3 in the middle, that means it's a wet tuned accordion. If you see 1 in the bottom and 2 dots in the middle and 1 above the 2 lines, it means it's a dry tuned accordion. If you're buying a 3-reed accordion, for instance, I definitely recommend you to buy a LMM instead of a LMH, because I feel the 2 middle registers is something that you would use quite often. You'd always want to have a low only and a middle only register switch. The option that you have for the 3rd reed block could be a 2nd middle block that is detuned, or a 3rd block that is actually a high block. I personally like the 2 middle blocks a lot, and that is a sound that you typically associate with an accordion. So if you're looking for a 3-reed accordion, the choice is actually a little bit more straightforward, and you could go for LMM tuning as opposed to the LMH tuning. But if you go for a 4-reed accordion, it's completely up to what you like, whether you like the wetter sound better or the drier sound better. I hope this video was informative in picking the number of reed blocks and the type of reed blocks that you want with respect to the tuning that you like. If you liked this video, I'd really appreciate if you would subscribe to my channel, where I'd post more videos about the accordion, my performance videos, and lessons on how to play the accordion. Thank you.